And as far as unit composition is concerned, as long as I really mutiling Baneling versus Thor Tank Marine Medevac comes down to a micro battle. If your Marine Ball can avoid the Banelings and you don't lose your entire force, like if the forces are reasonably matched such that you're not losing outright to Banelings just hitting your tanks or something like that, and if you keep your Marine Ball alive, generally you'll just wipe the floor with whatever kind of attack he sends in. As you can see here, he's got a pretty hefty Mutaforce. He's doing wicked damage to my SCVs. I don't even know how many he killed. Looks like about 10. There's not really very much space behind this expansion here with which to put turrets, so it's kind of hard to defend. Really have to put the turrets down here. And as you can see, he's already snuck some creep tumors down here, which is pretty freaking annoying. But he's just ridiculous with that creep sped. Let's see, when he's 22 mutas on the field. He's got 1+ attack on them. Zerglings are still 0/0. Roaches are as well. But he's going to be annoying as hell with these Mutalisks. And I'm trying to get turrets up over here to at least buy my units some time to stem and then get back here. Because turrets alone, even if you got the armor upgrade and the high-sec auto-tracking, just would not be enough to deal with this many mutas. So really every time you see him, you're going to have to run around. And it can be a huge pain in the butt because they can just do ridiculous amounts of damage if they're messing around unmolested in your base. I get some here. If he'd had better control though, he could have just totally avoided that. And I would have stemmed, lost all that energy, been a little bit out of position, and he would have done all that damage that he did just without any cost. And that is the advantage of Mutalisks. I still have not had the time to put up this refinery. Everything else is working pretty well. I'm a little unsaturated, which was an accident on my part. But right now I'm just kind of focused on trying to avoid getting slowly whittled down by these Mutalisks. And I expect them to come back in here. There's just not too many ways that you can move all the way in. As you can see, I'm exactly right. Exactly what he's doing. I'm all about forward positions to keep your bases safe. I think the best way to stay safe is not to run around and try and defend, which is still what I see a lot of people doing, but instead to change the way in which your opponent can attack you. You can't run mutas in my base very easily if I'm cutting off most of your main avenues of approach. And the same with the ground army here. These tanks are a little bit out of position. He tries to come in here. His plan with that, I guess, was he was going to send in the mutas, snipe off as many tanks as he could, and then do an attack while I had low tank numbers. But even though he killed, I think, 2 or 3 tanks, it's just not going to be enough. I have my muta blocking force over here, which is a fair amount of Marines and 2 Thors. I've got good tank spread here, so that if he wants to come in here and try and snipe my tanks to reduce the damage his army is taking, he's going to be taking damage from 3, 4 tanks at least at any given time. And his unit composition is decent. He doesn't have very many Banelings in there, which means that if I watch my Marine placement, they'll live and they'll be able to fight some of these roaches that he has here. But he has a lot of roaches, 32 roaches, and they're only 1/1 though, which I'm not entirely sure. Usually he's pretty good about upgrades, but seems to have been falling a little bit behind. But he has a pretty significant macro advantage. 67 drones. He's at 182 food versus my 170 food. And let's see how many resources he has banked. Whoa, 5,000 minerals. So he's going to be able to instantly rebuild whatever he wants. And he has an Ultralisk Cavern up, so, and a Greater Spire. So we're going to see the deadly Zerg tech switch. This is like the best late game Zerg strategy. You come in here, you attack, do as much damage as you possibly can do, and then while the Terran's weak, you just produce a ridiculous amount of Ultras, and then tech switch into Broodlords, and it's just like, it's impossible to deal with a lot of the time. But we'll see. He's getting most of the Marines, but he's not targeting the siege tanks, which means they're just ripping apart his roach army here. As you can see, they're all pretty weak. And then I came in here to the side, my muta blocking force, and he has no army now. But it's okay, because he's producing 8 Ultralisks, 64 Zerglings, 7 Roaches. Right now I'm trying to take advantage of the fact that I know right now he has no army, and I'm going to see if I can do a little bit of damage here. I'm able to do a little bit, but really this force is not big enough, and I kind of... that was a poor idea to commit that. And let's see, what else am I doing right now? Just producing more tanks, marines. I figure right now that he is doing something like he is in fact doing, but I didn't know whether he was going Broodlords or Ultras, so I'm trying to get a composition that can, if they're Ultralisks, deal with it fairly well, and if they're Broodlords, buy me enough time to get out Vikings. But I absolutely do not want to produce Vikings when I don't know there's Broodlords on the field, because they suck at everything but killing Broodlords. I mean, they suck versus Mutalisks, they're not great versus Corruptors, and he would have no reason to produce Corruptors anyway if he wasn't getting Broodlords. But anyway, I don't want to produce Vikings and end up losing to Ultras as a result. And as you can see, finally I'm getting my 4th here. I send these 2 tanks to knock down the rocks. And I believe in just a second I'm going to scan this ridiculous Ultra force that he has here. And he's, I guess, really decided to be a dick. He's not going to wait and then tech switch. He's going to build Broodlords and Ultralisks at the same time. And he certainly has the money to do it. Although he is pretty unsaturated here. Let's see how many harvesters he has. 65. Yeah, I guess all he really needs at this point is gas, because he just has a redonkulous amount of minerals. Yeah, my income is still just really small compared to his. I'm outdoing him in minerals, but that's because he has so much banked, it just does not matter at this point. And he's going to come in here, he's going to try and flank me. I really think maybe when he was attacking, I presume he's going to come down here and attack like this. But if you're going to do a flank, it's my opinion that you really actually have to flank. You can't send your entire army around the side. You have to attack from the front and from the side. That's the kind of point, anyway, of flanking, in my opinion. So we'll see how well this works. Really, I think this is gonna basically be determined based on whether this huge ball of Marines actually survives. And we will see. 64 Marines. Kills a fair amount of Marines that I stem, run away, and it looks like my Marines are just gonna rip this shit to shreds. 3-1 Marines with medevacs. Yeah, that was brutal. And as you can see during this, I stemmed some Marines and sent them over to this base. Especially on this base with the big, wide open attack areas. I think this is a particularly good tactic. I saw Jinro do this in the GSL. Instead of just trying to do drops all over the place, which is a lot more micro-intensive, you have to queue up the drop commands, you have to control the units, you gotta stem them. And if you lose the attacking force, you lose not only the units, but also the medevacs, which are not cheap. I'm gonna explain this before these Broodlords come in here. But if you just grab a group of Marines and, say, shift-click them over here, and then attack, and then when they get over there, you stem them, a lot of times you can just straight up kill whatever base he has over there, and you can do this in multiple areas without very much effort. And worst case scenario, you lost like 7 Marines, and a lot of times you can just APM cap them, if you will. They just don't have the multitasking ability to deal with your main force that is threatening them somehow. An attack over here, an attack over here, along with macroing. Especially during a battle, or right after a battle, or while he's moving around somewhere and you see him. It's a pretty good tactic. And you can just kind of slowly whittle down their production capability, which is exactly what I'm trying to do. And here come the Broodlords. This little area here is just built for Broodlords. If you don't actually have Vikings out, it's just hard to hit them. Thors do such shit damage to Broodlords. They do bonus damage versus light. And while you're trying to shoot them, if you don't target them specifically, then it messes up their target AI and they end up trying to shoot at the broodlings, which just ends up getting you killed. As you can see, he's decided to come in here with his main force. while I'm moving around trying to get the Broodlords. And he's trying to do a surround here. Gets a lot of my Marines, but I managed to kill all the Broodlords. And even though his counterattack was pretty good here, he didn't send enough stuff to kill the Planetary Fortress. And he's going to lose this base because he tried to counterattack but didn't have the right unit composition to do it. To deal with planetaries, really you have to have air units or you have to have Ultralisks. Lings, it doesn't really even matter how many you have, they just get owned by planetary fortresses. And roaches, even though they're not bad against planetary fortresses, if you do mass repair, you can hold it off fairly well. And as you can see here, even though he has resources, no, he's not anymore. He's unfortunately spent all his money. He lost all those Ultralisks. He lost all those Broodlords. He lost several sets of Lings that numbered in the hundreds. And it's just going to be a rout from here, basically. He lost his production capabilities here once, killed his gold, and now, unfortunately, he's dead. He was really mad about this game, actually. Like, infuriated. And I think it's probably reasonable because there really wasn't anything that he did terribly wrong. His macro was very good. He controlled the entire map. He had a good idea of what my unit composition was. He teched very well. He was up to Hive. His upgrades... Where's upgrades? They could have been better, but they weren't bad. Let's see, he's just one up for his... And yeah, 3 was about to finish. That's a little late in my opinion. I was at 2-3 at this time. I guess I can't really talk because, yeah, I'm almost behind there. But his upgrades probably could have been a little better. But I think really it centers on his inability to deny me expansions. He creeped up this area, and I had to, before I landed it, I had to come down here and scan and kill off some creep tumors. But he wasn't able to deny me this expansion, and he wasn't able to kill this expansion. And because of the way that I controlled the avenues of attack, his meter harass didn't end up being successful enough to really debilitate me. I think he killed probably 10 SCVs here, which really did hurt me, but not enough to stop my juggernaut of tanks and Thors and shit that were marching over to his base. But he just wasn't able to severely hurt me, and he couldn't attack this base because he had to get through all the crap that I had up here defending this gold. And yeah, it was just, I think it's hard to understand what exactly he did wrong that caused him to lose this game. There are a couple things that he usually does that he didn't do this game. Baneling drops, run-bys back here. I did have this blocked off, but it was a little bit late, so it might have been possible. Or you can just kill this when you're out here trying to defend and force them to pull back units. Drops would have been pretty hard to do. It is possible, it probably would have been possible to drop the base here, my main, and try and kill production facilities, because I did have a lot in there. But I like to spread out my production facilities. I really, as you can see, put a lot out here in my natural where it's much easier to run back to. I mean, my army is usually sitting here, here, and here, and it's pretty trivial to run back here and try and clean something up. But that's really the only thing that I can think of that really would have been a game changer. Unit composition was just spot on for him in my opinion. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that. Hopefully this one was a little more exciting than the last one. Unfortunately, it's just a feature of my play. The first 15 minutes of most of my games are pretty boring unless I get attacked, which in TVZ is not particularly common. My TVP style is a little bit different. I'm probably going to cast one of my TVB games pretty soon. I used to rely pretty much entirely on the Iacoic build and the 2 racks fast expand, but I've been changing it up lately. So I'll see if I can cast one of those guys for you sometime this weekend. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it. Laters.